Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the pretty complicated link between religious faith and family life in America. You know, it's a topic that's always in the headlines, but as we're about to see, the story isn't always what it seems.
So let's just start with this headline. It's a lot, right? This one from the Daily Beast really sums up a story many of us have heard. It was actually based on a study that claimed religious kids were meaner and less generous. It's a perfect example of the kind of narrative that tends to dominate the conversation.
And this slide really gets to the heart of the matter. We've got a tale of two completely different narratives. On one hand, you have the common story, right? The one where religion is seen as this outdated thing that causes all sorts of problems in a family. But then, on the other hand, our source material points to a ton of sociological data that seems to tell a totally different story.
To really flesh out this critical story, the source points to a few examples. There is this piece in The New Yorker that argued for Christian men using porn creates this intense mental stress, what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, because what they're doing clashes with what they believe. And this, supposedly, leads to shame and marriage problems. And then, of course, there's that study about mean religious kids we just mentioned. Now, here's the kicker. That study was later retracted. But you know how it goes. The headlines had already done their damage.
Okay, so that's one side of the coin, the critical narrative. But what about the other side? Let's pivot and take a look at the actual numbers presented in the source material.
The author brings out some pretty striking statistics. For example, a Harvard study found that women who go to religious services on the regular are about 50% less likely to get divorced. I mean, wow, that is a huge difference.
This chart here really paints a clear picture of what they're talking about. The data from the State of Our Union survey shows that couples who attend services together report being very happy in their marriages at way higher rates. I mean, just look at the jump for husbands. It goes from 68% all the way up to 84%. That is a massive gap.
And you know what? This pattern isn't just about marriage. This slide shows that the very same survey found a strong link with overall life satisfaction too. For husbands who attend regularly with their wives, 55% say they're very satisfied with life, compared to just 28% of guys who don't. The trend is just incredibly consistent.
So if the data shows all this, the big question is why? What's going on here? Well, the source suggests a sociological framework to explain it, and it all boils down to three key things it calls the 3 N's.
Okay, so here's the framework. First up, you've got norms. These are the values and virtues. You know, things like fidelity, forgiveness, the stuff that's constantly being reinforced. Second, you have networks. This is the built-in community that's there for you, with practical and moral support. And third, there's nomos. It's a Greek word, and it basically means a meaningful worldview. You can think of it like a sacred canopy that gives your life a sense of purpose and helps you get through the tough stuff.
So how do these three things actually work together? Well, according to the source, they're all intertwined. The norms are taught through sermons and rituals. Then the networks step in with real-world support, like, bringing over meals when you have a new baby. But they also provide what sociologists call social control, which is a fancy way of saying they gently discourage behavior that could hurt a marriage. And the nomos kind of holds it all together by providing that ultimate meaning that helps couples deal with stress and suffering.
To make this idea of networks less abstract, the author shares this really personal story. When he and his wife brought home newborn twins, they were just completely overwhelmed. But their religious community jumped in and organized a full month of dinners. And he says it wasn't just about the food, it was this incredibly powerful signal that they were not in this alone.
Okay, let's dive into what might be the most controversial topic the source gets into, the link between religion and sex. I mean, this is where that stereotype of religious hang-ups really comes into play.
So first, the source lays out that common stereotype by using an example from another academic's book. You got David, the Christian guy, who's just tortured by guilt over his porn use. And then you have Nick, the secular guy, who's totally fine with it, no guilt at all. This is the classic picture of the repressed, unhappy religious person, right?
But then, the source immediately hits back at that stereotype with data. This chart, also from the State of Our Union survey, shows a pretty big difference in sexual frequency. About 2/3 of couples who go to services together say they have sex at least once a week. For other couples, that number drops to less than half.
And get this, it's not just about how often. This slide shows it's also about satisfaction. The same survey found that about 75% of religiously observant couples say they are very happy with their sexual relationship. That's a huge jump compared to the roughly 50% of their peers who say the same thing.
So what gives? Why would this be the case? Well, the source argues it's because of a few specific things. Faith provides guardrails against cheating, it encourages open communication, and it helps partners work through past trauma. It also provides those support networks, like an accountability group that helped a man named Jason beat a porn addiction that was really hurting his marriage.
And all of this seems to lead to the final big idea in the source material, the way that shared faith can create this powerful, almost unbreakable sense of commitment.
So, how does this commitment actually show up in the data? Well, take a look at this table. Among wives who attend services with their husbands, a full 70% say divorce is not at all likely. Now compare that to just 48% of secular or unchurched wives. The difference in how stable they feel their marriage is, it's just profound.
The author uses this really great phrase from the interviews to describe it, a no backup plan mindset. For these couples, divorce just isn't really on the table as an option. They talk about their marriage like a door they walk through and then sealed shut. And thinking that way seems to create a deep trust that lets both people go 2 feet in.
And honestly, nothing captures this idea better than this incredibly powerful quote from Kimberly, one of the people they interviewed. "I don't have a backup plan. I don't have a secret account. This is it. I'm all in." That just perfectly sums up this level of trust and commitment that, according to the source, seems to be a key outcome of having a shared faith.
So when you boil it all down, the source's big conclusion is that the quality of your community, whether it's a religious one or it's built around schools or sports or whatever, it matters immensely to the strength of your own family. The idea is simple. Family-friendly birds of a feather flock together, and the health of your friends' families can directly impact your own.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, turning the source's point into a question for all of us. It's a challenge to really think about our own social circles and ask ourselves, what communities in your life help you and your family flock together?